Welcome to the journey within, finding your true purpose and becoming your best self. I'm author Sonya Zappone. I'm a registered yoga teacher and author of my new book, The Hero's Journey Inwards, The Ego's Journey to the Soul. This is session one of the identified steps and stages of the journey inward, which is very similar to the hero's journey outward. You'll see yourself in these different steps and stages. This is about crossing over the bridge inside of yourself to your soul. And it's a journey towards a healthy relationship with yourself. And I believe there's a hero's journey inside each and every one of us. So if you're interested in more about that, you can pick up the book on Amazon. So this is about personal transformation. And this is internal inside transformation. So it's not just the outside that we can change to make a better life. We can change the inside of us first and foremost and fundamentally. And then the outer life that we have will change. So I always say self work is some of the most important work we will ever do. Many of you might be doing therapy or in a recovery program or doing some type of transformational work or program or spiritual study that helps you be a better human being and realize we are fully human, fully divine. We are also very spiritually inclined. And I like to talk about the power of the soul. Not many places discuss the soul. And I talk about the other side, the shadow side being the ego. So if you've watched the first introductory video of the introduction to my work, I explain it. There's lots of pictures, drawings, visuals, diagrams for you to see what it is I'm saying. It's hard to define sometimes, but here we are, the hero's journey inwards, and we're going to transform our thinking. These are my other books available on Amazon. And the first one was The Soul Doesn't Need $1,000,000 Seven Secrets to Accessing the Power Within You to Discover Purpose and Meaning in Work That You Love. So, this Hero's Journey is really a follow up book. And I have other books of poems and poetry because obviously poems connect us to our soul. This is the man I feel like I have to thank, the man, the myth, the legend, Joseph Campbell. He was born Irish Catholic in White Plains, New York, and studied and was interested in all the different religions and mythologies of the world. And he discovered a very powerful monomyth, like there was one myth, and how powerful myths are. And this is his book with the two different covers. And he really dived or delved in to each myth in the different parts. And it became very interesting, the similarities. This quote is: Destiny is not a matter of chance, it's a matter of choice. It's not a thing to be waited for, it's a thing to be achieved. This is by William Jennings Bryan. Um, so there is a choice to be a hero, and this is about the hero's journey. And you have to look and say, are you the hero that you have been waiting for? So, in any corner area of your life, if you want to be saved or rescued, it may be up to you to be the hero that you've waited for. And then in the larger, wider world, we need heroes. The world needs heroes everywhere. And I believe our humanity and our survival depends upon the individual hero. And you can see that all throughout history. So, where are the heroes today? Um, some authors are saying the world's not making any more heroes. Heroes need courage, bravery, connection, guidance. And so I'm here to hopefully make more heroes. That's my mission, to connect you to the hero's journey inside, that you can be a hero outside and make good choices and make a heroic destiny of choice where you leave a legacy of an area that you saved. And once you start looking at your life as if it were the hero's journey, you'll start to see it everywhere. Oh, there's a threshold. Oh, there's a call to adventure. Oh, there's a an ally. Oh, there's a temptress or a tempter to throw me off the path. Or here's the death, and oh, here's the resurrection. So we'll go over the different steps of this journey. And here it is. It's a circle, it's a cycle, and you'll notice at the top it's an ordinary person that goes through all this and becomes extraordinary. And I believe we can all do this hero's journey and become a hero because, as well, Aldo Emerson says, the hero's no braver than an ordinary man, but he's braver 5 minutes longer. So the first steps in the hero's journey are hearing the call to adventure, the call to the unknown. And you come from this ordinary world, and we're going to go down when you go through this psychologically, physically, mentally, emotionally, you go into a special world where there's provisions provided. So, the average person hears the call, and then there's typically the self doubt and the refusal of the call. So, there's other popular movies that really show the hero's journey, and one of them, Star Wars, another one's Harry Potter. If you can think of a movie where there's a hero or a heroine, a popular movie where you can relate to someone going through hearing a call to adventure, go ahead and type it in the chat. I'd love to hear and or read your comments of you can comment down below. What are some hero or heroine's journeys that you're seeing play out in popular movies or in real life? Or in real life. I'm interested and curious as to where you're seeing this hero's journey. And we do have a fascination with the hero's journey because we seem to have, I believe, this blueprint in us, somewhere in our DNA. And I believe it's in the soul after studying the soul. So I have another quote here. If you strive only to avoid the darkness or cling to the light, you cannot live in balance. Try striving to be conscious of all that you are. And that's where we're going in to take this hero's journey inward, shine a light inside, see what is there. It's powerful self awareness and can be brought into transformation and self actualization. It's a hero's journey inwards. It's like a spiritual overhaul, and you can enlarge your spiritual life with this teaching. So I like to talk about the basics of us. You know, they say mind, body, spirit, and I say soul. There's parts to us inside of us. There's power points inside of us, and I believe we all have these parts and components. We have a conscience that's both in the mind and in the body, and I believe it is part of the soul. I talk about the internal trinity of us being human beings, that we have this animal self that needs to be have food and water, shelter. We have this fearful self I call the ego, and we have a soul self, which I believe is our basically our internal guidance system. So if you believe in God or a higher power, that would be an external guidance system, and the soul would be an internal guidance system that is connected directly to that higher power in some invisible, unseen way. So we can make choices from love, and we can make choices from fear, and we can make choices from cravings. So we have different points of power to make choices. And we have to work on making our choices to the soul, from the soul. I like to define the soul as an acronym of sacred oneness of uniting light. Like, how else can you define the soul? There's other names, many names, true self, inner self. And they say, like William Shakespeare says, to thine own self be true. And what we're saying is be true to your soul. The ego I like to define as an emanation of fear, grappling with past trauma and self doubt, only doing its best to survive in ongoing survival mode. So, ego is fear based, it is part of us, it's our darkness. I don't believe we can shun this away, run from it. It's in us, it's part of us. I believe it can be integrated versus ignored. I believe it can be acknowledged and used for its gifts to keep us safe and not try to be. I don't believe we have to try to be fear less, completely fearless. I mean, fear is a good thing in certain situations. You need fear to keep you safe. That's why the ego is created. I believe in the psyche. So we got to talk about not. Trying to eliminate the ego, but acknowledge it. So I believe the hero's journey inwards is a journey of consciousness, and you go from the ego down into the unknown, into the subconscious, and you can find your soul, bring that back up to the ordinary world, into your normal life. The ego's journey, I bring it into the soul steps. Um, like, what would it take to take this hero's journey inwards? What would it take to be brave enough, empowered enough, equipped enough to be a hero in the world? And we're going to go over the first three steps that I've identified, but all of these are in the book. So we are going from an ordinary mortal to a heroic adventurer when we hear the call to adventure, the call to do self work and become a hero. So this is a quote from John O'Donohue, which is all about crossing that threshold. And even when you hear that call to adventure, realizing you're going from average person into trying to be more than an average person. It's a threshold. So this is his quote. At any time, you can ask yourself, at which threshold am I now standing? At this time in my life, what am I leaving? Where am I about to enter? What is preventing me from crossing my next threshold? What gift would enable me to do it? A threshold is not a simple boundary. It is a frontier that divides two different territories, rhythms, and atmospheres. Instead, and indeed, it is a lovely testimony to the fullness and integrity of an experience or a stage of life that it intensifies toward the end into a real frontier that cannot be crossed without the heart being passionately engaged and woken up. At this threshold, a great complexity of emotion comes alive: confusion, fear, excitement, sadness, hope. This is one of the reasons such vital crossings were always clothed in ritual. It is wise in your own life to be able to recognize and acknowledge the key thresholds, to take your time to feel all the varieties of presence that accrue there, to listen inward with complete attention until you hear the inner voice calling you forward. The time has come to cross. So, these are great questions for you to put in the chat. At this time in my life, to answer these questions, what am I leaving? Or what am I about to enter in my life? You might be about to enter a relationship. You might be leaving a relationship. You might be about to enter a new career. You might be leaving an old one behind. So we are always at these crossings and thresholds, and we're standing there about to make those transitions. So this really talks about these first three steps. So, session one is, what do we need to see, admit, acknowledge, and do? And this is about becoming more conscious of ourselves and taking intentional steps towards understanding ourselves, what makes us work, what makes us dysfunctional, what makes us self sabotage, what makes us inspired, what makes us act. So, step one is acknowledge the presence of your soul. Do you believe you have a soul? Do you know you have a soul? Do you often connect with your soul? That's step one, is acknowledging that presence, even if you're not totally familiar with it, or in connection. If you're an artist, you will feel probably more connected to your soul and your creative power. And step two is acknowledge the existence of your ego. And that's that emanation, that creation that's fear based. You probably have an easier time with step two, acknowledging that we have an angry person that will come out, that will have a fearful self that will hold us back, or a shadow side, or however you want to define ego. And step three is to admit the power struggle within us. So, one of the ways that we fight is with ourselves. There's a battle between this love and fear inside of ourself. And the ego generally is more powerful and louder in the beginning, but the soul can really sustain and stay in there for for that fight. So we're battling inside of ourselves, which is exhausting. However, there's ability in this hero's journey inward to have like you'll see in the hero's journey cycle, get spiritual provisions and get mentors and have sort of like a death to the old way of being, to a new soulful version, soul powered on a soul's mission, where the ego is now a servant, and an ally to the soul, where it can be used for its abilities and power for the greater good, for the soul's missions and goals. I talk about these inner layers of self. The inner self is like right here in the center, but the ego is a protection. Do you see why we wouldn't want to get, if this was like any plant or flower, you wouldn't want to get rid of everything that is protecting this beautiful center. So we do want to let the ego peel back when there's warmth and light, so that our soul can come out and shine. So we want to appreciate this ego, which is why we want to thank this the messages for protection, self preservation. We want to thank some of this fear and just acknowledge it and say thank you for letting me know, so that we can move on. So the powerful questions we need to ask ourselves is, what is driving us to make our choices? Is it fear or love? How do we better ourselves? Especially if you don't like who you've become, what you're doing. Um, there's times in our life that we just look around and say, what happened? Where I was just not making choices or passively making choices, and now my life doesn't look authentically like me at all. Another question, how do we become our best self? How do we better our relationships, especially the relationship with ourself? I like to do that one first. And how do we better our life? Remember, there's no perfect, and we're going to think about a current problem we have, because you can see problems from the ego's perspective or see it from the soul's perspective. And one of the tools is a prayer. When you're deep in the ego and fear, and you know you're acting and thinking and behaving out of trigger, trauma, and fear, and you want to get to your soul, which usually takes a while for that fear to calm down, you can pray for some power. Help me view this problem from the view of my soul. I believe this is a universal journey inwards for those seeking a spiritual path towards personal freedom. And when you're in recovery, if you've done any 12-step programs, you'll know that recovery means facing your challenges head on, working those steps, and making progress along the way. So we're talking about progress along that journey. So you have to be ready for change and admit and acknowledge things in the first three steps. And some people are ready to break up with their ego's control, which is, the relationship we have with our ego is like the worst relationship we have, like saying the same as the relationship with our self-doubt or our low self-esteem. So we have to get ready to connect to our soul. which is the best relationship we have. This can be our best friend, full of compassion, self-forgiveness, understanding, and love. So we would start taking this hero's journey inward with that step one. This is just another visual for you to see the difference between ego and soul. Ego is all of those survival programs. You can see how disorganized and dysfunctional it is. It's just trying to do whatever it can to protect us, and you can see how organized, and the soul contains the hero's light, and the ego is always this victim. So the hero's light, I believe, is found in the soul, and that's from all of my personal study of many religions and spiritual teachings. And it's the soul that contains the forgiveness. And if you've ever studied forgiveness, or done practice forgiveness, forgiveness sets you free, because like there's a famous quote, you can't hold a man down without holding yourself down at the same time. So forgiveness sets us free on our heroic mission in the outer world. So what are the tools for connecting to the soul? So there's many: meditation, prayer, journaling, yoga, stillness, retreats into nature or nature itself, self-study, music, poetry, meetings, mentors. There are tools for accessing our soul. And so my spiritual mentor told me to have a basic morning spiritual practice of accessing and getting in touch with the soul. There are tools to get out of the ego, and some of them are the same. You can journal and vent. You can go to therapy and talk it out. You can listen to music to um, dissolve that energy. Intense exercise can help. Being patient and giving it time, giving it the 3-day rule to burn off its energy. Going to, like I said, 12-step meetings or spiritual study groups. And sometimes inspirational or educational stuff can get you out of the ego. And the tip I like to say is you can out the ego and just let people know that are on a similar spiritual path and understand this concept. I'm just getting the fear out. Um, and then you can get out of your ego once you've outed it. Like, that's not who I am. This whole tirade, complaint session is not who I am. So this session one would be a 5-minute transformational journaling writing exercise. So we would write from the ego first, because I'm sure there's something in your life that you have taken issue with, that bothers you. There's a lot in the world that's wrong. There's a lot in our local and personal worlds that is wrong. Pollution, um, and all kinds of things. So we're going to pause here and take time to capture the ego. And this is really important, to just give it time and airspace. Remember, we don't want to like shut down the darkness, try to run from it. We want to hear it. It might have an important message in there. It's part of us. And here's the thing: when you're conscious of it, you are now in control of it versus it's controlling you. So, subconsciously, in that deep unknown of us, we could be controlled by our fears. And when we're controlled by our fears, we really can't progress forward in the ways that we want. We're in survival mode. So take the time now to out your ego. It might have something to say that it wants to say. And once it says it, and you're not trying to say, oh, I don't want to think negative thoughts. um, Once it says what it needs to say, this is not right, this is not fair. So if you have a journal, write that down. This is your own personal stuff that's bothering you, or your own fears, your own worries, your own anxieties. If you've ever seen that Disney movie Inside Out, all those different parts of our brain working at the switch station, at the helm, at the control center. um, so we want to listen to the fear. So take time, pause now, and set your timer for 5 minutes. and let yourself vent the ego for yourself. There's probably something that needs to be said. So the question is, what do you need to get out? What do you have to say right now? What's most bothering you? And then come back. Now we're moving on. So to get to the soul in a typical in-person retreat, we'd play a song, we'd look at a piece of artwork, we'd do some relaxation, some breathing, and then we would do the journaling. So when you come in and you sit down and you brought your whole life on your back, you'd be journaling and venting that ego. But once you're in a safe space, in a circle of like-minded individuals, you can capture the messages from your soul. It just takes time. It takes your patience. So you want to find out what your soul is saying to you. And this is transformational journaling. And so you could start with, what are my blessings in my life right now? You can always start with those gratitudes. What is good about my life? You can pause here and write those down. And now we're moving on to, what is it I need to know right now? That question from the soul. That question posed to the soul and the answer coming from the soul in your journaling. What is it I need to know right now? Go ahead, pause this video, take as much time as you need to, because different things will come into your awareness. You'll be at different stages and phases in your life, in your journey. So answer that. What is it I need to know right now? And write that down. Be prepared to share that with someone. So it'd be someone safe, someone anonymous. So let it be honest. And if you're journaling and you don't want to share that with anyone, you can just keep it to yourself. What is it you need to know right now? So that is the first 3 steps of the hero's journey inwards. Acknowledging your soul and that it has soul messages for you. So what are you listening to? Who are you listening to? If you're just going through life, watching advertisements, listening to who's powerful, popular, or the politics, and you're not listening to your soul, if none of us are listening to our own guidance system, there's trouble in the world. And we want to embrace and harness the ego to use for good. So my goal is obviously to make more heroes by guiding people into the power of their soul for them to access their hero self. So this is only the first 3 steps of the journey. So this is like your call to adventure. It's like, are you ready to dive into yourself, acknowledge yourself, and see where this goes? You ready to find that hero light, that treasure inside of you, and bring that back to the world? It's taking that full circle. And yeah, we don't cross these thresholds without those guardians. We'll meet guardians at the gate, and we need those mentors. So there are spiritual directors, there are coaches that can help you listen to your soul, access that voice inside, and make it stronger. I do have a Facebook group and a Facebook page where we're going to journey together. I have a blog where you can read some more information to stay on the path, because when you're on a conscious spiritual path, you want to stay on it. Some people say there's no getting off, because once you know and you're aware that you're on a hero's journey, and the first journey, or the journey happening simultaneously in parallel, is the journey inwards, because this is all going to affect the inside of you, and the inside of you has to respond and grow and mature and up level. on this hero's journey, um, there's a lot of change and we're getting outside of our comfort zone. That's what that refusal of the call is after hearing the call. Uh, there's the refusal of the call before there's even an answer of the call. It's no, I don't want to look at the darkness inside of me. No, I don't want to pull up past trauma and face any fears. No, I don't want to. I don't want to do anything that will rock the boat and make me uncomfortable. But our growth is being on the other side and going through that uncomfortableness. So you're welcome to find this book available on Amazon and start this journey. I'd love for you to start the journey in my small group. So here is my website at the top as a blog, and you can find this on Facebook to get inspirational messages, to stay on this journey, continue on the journey, and have tips and tools and different strategies to navigate that full circle hero's journey. And it is also a heroine's journey. When I say hero, it's both women and men going on their own personal journey inwards. So thank you so much for watching, and take this time now to type in the chat what was most helpful for you. What did you learn in this session? Be prepared to really figure out what your takeaway is. And I thank you for sharing your time. You can continue on your own personal journey by picking up that book and joining my blog. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel for more sessions as we go through the next ones. You can find me on Facebook. There will be a regular Hero's Journey transformation group. So please contact me if you want that. It'll be more of a circle sharing format than these informational webinars that just cover the steps. And I encourage you to keep taking steps and stay inspired on your path to your soul and your soul power so that you can become the hero that you have been waiting for and the hero that our world needs. Thank you so much for watching.